next hour and a half, former BBC reporter, champion goalie, best-selling author, researcher, David Icke is our guest. And I had him scheduled to talk about basically the state of the planet, what's going on, a lot of other breaking issues. We're going to be covering that, but off and on we'll give you new developments on the burning building, the Echelon complex. A small single-engine plane slammed into it at about 9:55 this morning, about 2 hours and 10 minutes ago, roughly. And they're now reporting, News Radio 590 KLBJ, one of our affiliates, as well as CNN, that this individual burned down his house in some type of domestic dispute. And then first they said stole a plane, or now they're saying it's his plane, and flew it into the building. So this could be a angry, crazy person that did this. Or it could be completely staged, because this is the type of stuff governments do. If they start connecting it to the Tea Party and to people that don't want to pay higher taxes. Oh, you don't like going bankrupt. You don't like that housing values are going down, but we're raising your property taxes nationwide. We're raising your business taxes, as on average nationwide, just in the last year, they've got a 14.2%, that's the national average, decline in sales tax revenue. Oh, you don't like higher taxes. You're a terrorist. We know the feds bombed Oklahoma City. That's completely proven. We know they carried out the underwear bombing on Christmas. That's admitted. The feds ordered him allowed on the plane, protected him. You know the whole story. We know Joe Biden said 2 days ago, I'm worried about lone nuts and terror attacks. And yes, I'm worried about assassination attempts on Obama. In the past month, Beck's been saying 9/11 truthers and birthers and Tea Party people. So now he's even going after mainline conservatives. More than half of conservatives polled believe Obama's lying about his birth certificate or covering it up. Now you are a terrorist. You want to bomb buildings. You want to kill Obama. So it's the preparation and them being caught staging the underwear bombing that really brings this into full view, that this is very suspicious and may be staged, because this is the season of terror. Their whole agenda is stalling. Their swine flu hoax is falling apart. Their global warming hoax is falling apart. Their new wars are falling apart. Their whole agenda is stalling. People are awakening. And suddenly you see the Fort Hood event clearly staged. It took us months to be able to get enough evidence of that, but the government surely knew, protected him. He was being handled by this particular al-Qaeda leader who handles all the other patsies. It goes on. And we'll talk about that with David Icke right now. Then coming up, I remember David 15 years ago really talking about this when many others weren't. And since then, it's come out in mainstream news that in France and England and the U.S., we've had all these Homeland Security state heads and others. And we've had just thousands of cases. We had the Texas Youth Commission, where it turned out every major facility was raping children. And the CPS and 3,400 missing kids, CNN reported in Florida that the government takes 3,400 missing in 1 year of the hundreds of thousands that they take all over the country, tens of thousands in Florida, 3,400 missing, and they won't say where they are, and there's no investigation. They just take your kids and they disappear. And Ted Gunderson, this was actually in the Washington Times, got into the Finders, a fake charity, and it was all this child porn, and the CIA had warned them, and they just gotten out with the kids, and then they caught CIA with a van load of naked kids. And I mean, this is in the major news. And the Franklin cover-up and the Bohemian Grove stuff, this is the cement that brings them all together. And I saw stories out of the Press Journal and other big Scottish publications. Sex abuse family legal advisor arrested. The police are arresting their legal advisors in courts, media people, anyone that talks about it before there was even a gag order. If you try to go give a public speaking engagement, they arrest you and charge you with disorderly conduct, because this woman and others are accusing police by name of running this pedophile ring. Now, the whole issue is there free speech in England? Is there free speech in the UK? Is there free speech in Scotland? And so there's this wider web. So I just gave you some of the backstory. That's coming up. David Icke, good to have you with us.
Hello, Alex.
So much is happening. Let's talk about the season of staged terror. The Fort Hood, the underwear bombing, now what's happening in Austin. What's your take on it?
Well, it's becoming blatant, and it's becoming blatant not least because it's becoming desperate. I've seen over the last 20 years 3 stages very clear in the uncovering of what's really happening in the world. The first one was instant dismissal, instant ridicule, and also instant condemnation. The second stage, which really started to run after 9/11, and even more when the Iraq invasion hoax became very clearly exposed as a massive lie all along, we went into the stage 2, which was people starting to say, hold on a second, the world is not like we thought it was. Now we're starting to enter, we're on this cusp, indeed we're beyond it, this third stage where that awakening, that awareness that the world is not like we thought it was, is starting to impact on events. We demolished the fantastic work over the internet, and many people over the months of 2009 demolished their swine flu scam, absolutely devastated it. As you said earlier, the climate change big lie, is unraveling all the time. And so they're starting to get desperate. And what they're doing, obviously, is trying to target those people that are uncovering it and communicating this information, and also in more and more desperate ways trying to put the lid on society in general through more and more outrageous, extreme methods of surveillance. I mean, what can you do when what can you say when there are trials for these body scanners? There were only trials. Has anyone out there ever had a trial, a government trial, that wasn't actually widely introduced afterwards? They're not trials at all. And then suddenly, while these trials are going on, some guy sets his pants on fire over America. Oh, my goodness me, we've got to have these scanners. Isn't it lucky? Isn't it fortunate? We're just having trials. That's amazing. So it's becoming blatant because it's becoming desperate. And on one level, it's a challenge. Of course, this is a challenge. No one said it would be easy in what's happening at the moment. But also, it is a tremendous testament, tremendous encouragement that we have started to get these people on the run. And every day, more people awaken, and their job gets harder. So it's a challenge, but it's a very, very encouraging time.
Well, I agree with you, David, and that's why we're going to see more and more staged attacks, more and more provocateur attacks, and the awakening is accelerating because people are finding out government really never tells the truth.
Exactly. I mean, you've got to start from that. You've got to start from that foundation. Is he lying? Is he a politician? Well, 99% of the time he's lying. His lips moving, he's lying. Because that's their job, to tell the truth, to tell lies and not the truth. And for this reason, if they tell the truth, they say the terrorists we've named weren't responsible for 9/11. The guy who set his pants on fire was a set-up patsy, and so on and so forth. That's what they'll have to do if they're telling the truth. And therefore, everything they say is a cover story to hide the real reason and origin of these world events and society-changing events. Therefore, because they're constantly parroting a cover story, they're constantly lying by definition. It goes with the job. So if you start from the foundation, if anyone is kind of new to this, first of all, if officialdom's telling you something, it's either a lie or a half-truth, as I say about Tony Blair. If there's ever a half-truth in a Tony Blair speech, it's a typing error. Same with Obama. And the other thing, the foundation is, governments are not there to serve the people. They're there to serve and introduce an agenda to enslave the people. Once we move our point of perception, our point of observation of world events from what we thought it was to that, then we start to filter the world and reality in a completely different way, and we start to see what we couldn't see before. We start to see behind the smoke screens and the fake cover stories. And that's what is happening to more and more people, Alex, and that's why it's becoming more and more difficult for these people to sell their agenda and sell their lies.
David, going back over my research, so much